I think we finally reached it, Earl. The nexus point where everything went haywire. Where 2 chapters of the 100 Girlfriends manga were released out of order, and it sent our timeline spiraling out of control. We have this little mix-up to thank for the future we live in, where everyone uses sporks at every meal because it's more efficient. Hot dogs are legally classified as sandwiches. Everyone pronounces the K in knife. Water is always served at room temperature, and Zune Scans is now Sunday Scans. Everything is just all topsy-turvy, and I refuse to pronounce the K in knife. So we are fixing this right now. Okay, by my calculations, if I review the mixed up chapters in actual order, that should be enough to set everything in order in the fandom. That should be simple enough. It is only 2 chapters that we have to cover. I haven't done that in a hot minute though. But for the sake of the future, we're gonna have to do it. Let's get this ball rolling. I'm Moonlight150, and this is my double review of the latest 100 Girlfriends manga chapters, Chapter 241 and 242. Starting off this review will be Chapter 241, Rentero's Family and Kogoe's Favorite Thing. As always, I won't be going over everything in this chapter to encourage you to go check out the chapter for yourself, where the Scanlander Zune, well, I guess they're called Sunday Scans in this timeline, as they have been recently breaking their own speed record and getting these translations out, as well as supporting the official release in your region as the next manga is due out soon to support the series in preparation for the upcoming anime season this year. After the longest break in the history of the series, or at least as long as I have been covering it, we finally get new girlfriend Kogoe to meet the family, with her 1,000-yard stare ever present as she seems almost as nervous as Rentero to being introduced, though she isn't breaking into a cold sweat like Rentero is, so at least she doesn't have that going for her. Though oddballs and outcasts are the norm with this group, and they are hardly fazed by the glare of Kogoe. Some, like Hahari Mimi, even find her eyes good-looking. Though most characters in this series have 2 quirks to their personality, and they are quickly introduced to Kogoe's other one that she is easily susceptible to the cold, and does the Cossack dance to stay warm. Though, like I said, quirky people are what this group specializes in, so this hardly phases anyone as well. And just as Uto tries to read the winds of what she thinks the author has in store for them for the chapter, Nakamura pulls the rug out from underneath her, and we learn that Kogoe's favorite things are actually kotatsus and hot pots. So we're spending the day at a hot pot restaurant that so conveniently had a kotatsu that can fit 37 people in the middle of spring. How lucky of them to be able to find that. Just as everyone is enjoying their hot pot meal, Ms. Natty points out that they have a special offer that if your party is able to finish off their ultra spicy Korean hot pot, you get the special prize of the gelato from the renowned Pierre Giral from all the way back in chapter 25. So according to my theory last video, about a month ago. So with 37 of them to finish off 1 pot of ultra spicy Korean hot pot, the odds are in their favor, and they decide to take on the challenge, only to be met with instant regret. And with that, Nurse Chio is on the case as she has developed her nursing abilities to such an extent that she basically can glance at someone in pain and gauge if they are at their limit like a barometer. So with that oddly specific and handy superpower at the ready, Nurse Chio starts eliminating members of the family, forbidding them from consuming any more of the ultra spicy hot pot before they consume too much for their own safety. Since this is another event occurs and everyone reacts to said event kind of chapter, I won't show it all to you because I want you to go read the chapter for yourself, but I will highlight some of my personal favorites. Like how Shizuka and Saki are the first ones Nurse Chio benches because they are the weakest babies of the bunch and probably only had a single bite. Eru thinking her twin tails are magically able to soothe her scorched tongue, Momoha and Hakari beginning to strip from overheating, and that Chio gets her first growl at indecency in quite some time in this manga, but saying not in public to them. So she would be okay with this if they weren't in public? And I have to call out Rentero somehow slipping on a face mask of himself happily enjoying the ultra spicy hot pot, when in reality he was suffering like the rest of them. Unsurprisingly, with how cold Kogoe usually is, she is loving the ultra spicy hot pot and isn't even breaking a sweat with the stuff, which ends up winning the challenge for the whole family, and they all get to enjoy the gelato and get to cool down from their heat trauma. Though to the dismay of Kogoe, who goes right back to suffering from the cold of the treat, which gets immediately rectified with a Rentero family group hug, awfully reminiscent of the group hug that initiated Usa-chan into the family back when I first started covering this series, which is coming up on almost 2 years now. Can you believe it? How have I been doing this for 2 years already?
This is because of you.
And with that, Kogoe's introduction to the family is complete. Honestly, she has given off a great first impression so far. High contender for favorite girlfriend of 2026. Her quirk is kept simple yet malleable to the group and will hopefully continue to do so for future chapters, unlike with what happened with Nurse Chio. Speaking of the nurse, somehow it's another girlfriend's introduction chapter where she got her best showing so far, with her acting like a living barometer for everyone's pain tolerance for spicy food before they reach the point of no return, as the narrator box so eloquently put it. Except for poor Iku and Rentaro, but honestly they are gluttons for punishment, so they deserve it. It is interesting though that they haven't done such a small intimate kind of group date idea in so long. Everything is usually so big now because of the group size. So I love that we almost kind of went back to basics with this one. It's just dinner with 37 people. Not to mention the callback to earlier in the series with Pierre Gérald. I swear, Nakamura only remembered him because of season 2 of the anime. Figures. Couldn't have been that easy to fix everything. Guess I need to review both chapters in order to undo this mess. Alright, no time to lose. On to chapter 242. The next installment of the Flirty Daily Life with part 9. It's a home day with Akko for Rentaro, and this time not trying to feed the TikTok algorithm, but this time chilling and gaming together on their totally not a Switch 2, Switch 2. You know, between all the iPad movie dates and now playing on the Switch 2 undocked, I think it's safe to say the Aijo family household does not own a television.
For real?
This somehow explains a lot and adds even more questions. But no time to dwell on that, as Akko compliments Rentaro on his pro gamer skills, which sends him down a showboating path of wanting to impress her with his gamer knowledge, which he does just that, even if he does have a moment of regret wondering if he went overboard. I mean, it's his girlfriends, there is no going overboard, and Akko is happy just watching her boyfriend be in his element. Which, yes, I agree with Akko here. Give me more of this Rentaro. The Rentaro that is into other things other than being Mr. Perfect Boyfriend. Don't get me wrong, the love monster is great, but this is the Rentaro I want to see more of, and it seems like his girlfriends agree. It's another breezy day in the town of Tsukisugi as Rentaro and Iku are out for a walk around the school, but no fear of a panty shot this chapter as Iku is wearing her trusty spats. But she's always wearing those. How is this different from any other day? Yeah, don't think about it, just look at the cute pictures. When it suddenly dawns on Iku that she just more or less just flashed her boyfriend on school grounds. Oh, and Ahari just happened to be gooning nearby in the window. Don't worry, I already have Hakari on speed dial in case of situations like this to come pick up her mother. Yeah, she's doing it again, come pick her up. After a long day of a date with Rentaro, Kimari is all tucked in for the night, but much like the youth she is trying to recapture, she begins squealing like a schoolgirl thinking about her boyfriend and prompts to send him a text. But post-squeal clarity kicks in and she recomposes herself and tries to clear the text but accidentally sends it instead. That's what you get for not looking when pushing buttons on your phone. But to no one's surprise, the text is warmly welcomed by Rentaro, and he responds with a text even longer than hers. Also, I gotta say, he's totally on a date with another girlfriend when he's sending this, right? That's just a funny image to me. He's with another girlfriend and tells her he needs a second to respond to the other girlfriend he was just on a date with earlier that day. It doesn't work in any other series, but it works in this one though. Also, I need to talk about this nightcap. Like, why? Granted, out of all the girlfriends, she makes the most sense to wear one. Nightcaps were worn throughout Northern Europe during the Middle Ages up to about the 20th century, because, damn, it gets cold in Scandinavia, and back then it was believed cold air was bad for your health, so they tried to bundle up as much as possible, especially while sleeping. This sounds like it would fit Kogoe a lot more than Kimari. Guess they just wanted to make it funnier with the older woman wearing the nightcap. I say older and she's only 27. Speaking of Kogoe, it's Kogoe's first solo outing with Rentaro, and instead of an iPad movie home date, Rentaro splurged and actually took her to the movie theater. Not only by splurging by going to the movie theater and spending God knows how much on snacks, but a theater with a couple's seat. Is that a thing? I've never been to a theater with one. What kind of fancy expensive theater is this? He must have taken a loan from Ahari to afford this date. And keeping in mind how cold movie theaters usually get, Rentaro made sure to bring an extra blanket so they can snuggle up during the movie, and even outright admits that it was his goal to be so physically intimate. Which, attaboy, Rentaro. Between this and seeing his gamer side, we're finally seeing a bit more out of Rentaro as a character rather than just as a plot accessory. Also, is this like the most intimate Rentaro's gone with a girlfriend, like right off the bat? I mean, it makes sense with a character like Kogoe who craves warmth, so I guess it makes sense Rentaro would default doing something like this. Two birds with one stone kind of deal, I guess. Now onto the opposite of Kogoe and piling on warm clothes. It's time to strip, as after a walk, Sue tries to cool off by removing her top, which immediately sends Rentaro into a fluster from his girlfriend randomly stripping in front of him. Unable to understand the situation, Sue asks what the big deal is, as she has never considered herself quote-unquote sexy due to the lack of, in her own words, huge honkers like Ahari or a big booty like Era. But Rentaro reassures her that no matter the shape or size of his girlfriends, he finds them all alluring or gets him going, as he says. And this might be the most sexual adjacent thing Rentaro has said regarding his relationship between him and his girlfriends in a long time. Check out my boy Rentaro here in this growth in a single chapter, and in a flirty daily life chapter of all things. Does this also count as body positivity? I'm gonna say yes. And before you call me out in the comments, yes, I do see that calendar behind Sue, but the sirens won't be going off today, as we can't confirm if this is a 30 or 31 day month. It could literally be a plethora of months, so we won't even bother trying to piece it together. The fact that this speech bubble is purposefully blocking the possible 31st day really makes it feel like a personal attack against me though. So my headcanon is that this is not a real calendar. Or it was at one point, but Sue just liked the numbers on them and couldn't force herself to toss the old calendar, and just keeps it on her wall because she likes how the numbers look. We're out frolicking in the fields with Yamame and Rentaro. Or I guess less frolicking and more taking a leisurely stroll, where Rentaro turns up that effortless Rentaro Riz by saying how he can't keep his eyes off of her as she is admiring the flowers, which swoons Yamame and they end up displaying some public PDA in front of everyone who is just trying to enjoy the flower patch. Karane is exhausted after a long date of doing something, not too sure what, but all that matters is that they are on the train, and she's decided to take a nap on Rentaro's shoulder. And with Karane being as cute as she is, being all sleepy and rocking a killer outfit, one can't help but stare. Especially Rentaro, as his eyes literally stretch out of their sockets to admire what is in front of him. Okay, yeah, you know what? I'm too freaked out by this. On to the next segment. Let's get out of here. It's a crisp spring day, which isn't great for someone who wears assless chaps like Miss Natty, as she's complaining about how frozen her thighs are. At least that was the conversation until a rogue roasted sweet potato wagon came barreling down the road, slinging hot taters everywhere, which Rentaro blocks with his hand and suffers possible second-degree burns. Though conveniently, as Miss Natty was talking about how frozen her thighs were, she just instinctively just mashes his hand into her thighs to cool it off.
It should have been me, not him! It's not fair!
Rentaro and Kishka were out passing by a Lolita clothing store when the manager suddenly tripped and spilled coffee everywhere. Oh hey, that's the title of the segment. So for a replacement, the manager offers Kishka this Lolita outfit, to where she is embarrassed because cute is apparently the antithesis to chivalry. But Rentaro is having none of that as he just bombards Kishka, calling her the cutest girl in the galaxy, until she can't take it anymore. Lastly, we have Hakari and Rentaro as they are out for a stroll, and they come across an arch that guarantees happiness if you do a bridal carry through it. Obviously, Rentaro wants to do it, but Hakari is fearful of Rentaro noticing that she has put on some weight. As she respectfully declines, he swoops her up anyway and proceeds to do the bridal carry as she panics, making him try not to think about her weight gain. Though by yelling about it, you're making him think about it. You are your own undoing, Hakari. And that's another flirty daily life in the books. A rather simple one on the surface, but when you peel back a layer, I find this to be a rather interesting set of date segments, mainly when you focus on Rentaro himself. Almost every segment has Rentaro going against his norm, showing some kind of growth as a character, even if it's small. Let me run down the list and show you. The Akko segment. It shows him having an interest that he actually spends time with outside of his girlfriends. You don't know these kind of strategies in a game without spending a good amount of time in it, or at least spending time researching it. The Iku segment. Probably on the lesser side, but Rentaro not going over the top panicking trying to obscure his view, or over the top apologizing and just casually blushing, feels like a bit of growth compared to a Rentaro of earlier in the series. The Kogoe segment. Him openly admitting to devising the date to get a couple seat, and in blanket and outwardly saying he wants to cuddle and that was the plan without a single shred of embarrassment or being coy about it. And on the first date too? That's new. The Sue segment. Flat out saying that all of his girlfriends, and I quote, get him going, with no fumbling over the sentence or using any fancy words to cover them up, just straight up saying it. The Karade segment. Another one on the smaller side, but him seeing this as an opportunity to gawp over his girlfriend and taking full advantage of it rather than debating in his head if it might come off as creepy for admiring his girlfriend as she sleeps. He just does it without a second thought. The Ms. Natty segment. Now this one could just be because the segment ends so abruptly, but an older version of Rentaro would have immediately pulled his hand out and panicked at the indecency that just occurred and apologized for getting hit by the roasted potato. The Kishka segment. Him going against his girlfriend's wishes of saying I don't want to be called cute and say, nah, you are cute and let me go on a multi-page speech about how cute you are, kind of reminds me of him being a bit more forceful in that Himika chapter. For the sake of the betterment of his girlfriends, he will go against their wishes. The Hakari segment. Similar to the Kishka one, even though Hakari said no, instead of just leaving it there fair in accepting her wishes, he knows she wants to do the bridal carry, and goes against what she told him, Rentaro being more forceful and forward for the sake of the happiness of his girlfriends, instead of being subservient. So even though these kind of flirty daily life chapters are more for giving individual girlfriends time in the spotlight, Rentaro actually came out on top for me in this one. But I don't want to dismiss the girlfriends just yet. A lot of them actually dismissed their Flanderization. Iko didn't try to hurt herself, Sue wasn't disinterested in the conversation because a number wasn't involved, Karne was actually kind and sweet. Granted, she did soon out later, thanks to the narrator box, but we got to see her dare side. Kishka didn't go into baby mode, and Hakari didn't say or do anything lewd. This is a triumphant new start to 2026 for a lot of these characters. Between this and the subtle changes to Rentaro, it almost feels like Nakamura really said, 2026, new year, new me for writing 100 girlfriends, and possibly saw some criticism and took them to heart to shake things up. So let's see how much it continues in the year. I'm excited to see where it continues. Oh hey, look! Oh, hey, look! Earl, we did it! Reviewing the 2 out-of-order chapters fixed everything! Hot dogs are still ambiguous! Knife is back to having a silent K!
Knife.
Water can be ice cold again! Zune Scans is still Sunday Scans. Well, okay, I guess we can leave that one. That's fine. Now that the programming's back to normal, next week is Kogoe's focus chapter. And it looks like she is pairing up with Meimei. It should have been obvious the 2 girls who are self-conscious about their eyes would be together. Not to mention Meimei knits and Kogoe needs as many sweaters as she can get. So I will see you all next week for that, with our regular videos and none of these chapters out of order nonsense. I've been Moonlight150, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you're new here. And go check out the Season 3 prediction video if you somehow haven't yet. Now let's go back to our timeline, Earl. Bridal carry me.